The year was 2344. After an effort to fend off an alien invasion, governments began firing nuclear warheads on their own land. The attempts to stop the alien invasion caused much more damage than anyone could have imagined, wiping out entire continents of people. The world had been destroyed. North America sat silently as a wasteland devoid of all life. The entire north side of Africa had been blasted so much that the ocean had moved in and taken its place. Australia was no more than a pile of sand, devoid of all life, which honestly isn't that much different than usual, am I right? Humanity had been wiped out, and the earth was quiet once more. Or so we thought. On the continent of Asia, several colonies of survivors began to pop up. Amidst the radiated wasteland, they found a way to grow crops and to have some semblance of normal life again. Amongst them was a middle-aged man named Thomas, bald. His home was Avuawa. He had 2 children, and his favorite food was burger. Nice. Thomas was part of one of the initial colonies to defy the apocalypse and say, no, we're gonna survive this thing. He was revered by his acquaintances by being a brave and hopeful soul. They all thought it was because he was just a brave and hopeful kind of guy. But he believed in something that they didn't know. People used to tell stories of a great being somewhere over the water that could heal the sick, raise people from the dead, and just help them get things back to normal. People laughed at him though, when he told them that this creature was actually just a big rat called the Rat King. But he didn't care. He believed it. And even though he got older, he hoped that someday he'd see the Rat King for himself. Only one person actually believed Thomas, and that was his best friend, Carl. They grew up together in Avuawa, except Carl, he only liked bread. Carl and Thomas would discuss their hopes that someday the Rat King would bring them a new life to their struggling civilization. But with every passing year, Carl believed it less and less. But Thomas never gave up hope. On his way home from work one day, Thomas saw something off in the distance, something that made him very curious. So curious he ran the other direction. A rat-like creature. Several of them, in fact. He thought to himself, this is it. This is the Rat King and his loyal companions. They're here to save us from this apocalypse. He walked towards the rat to speak with him, and the rat fought back. In self-defense, he killed the rat, but unfortunately, he turned green. The rat was infected with zombie virus and was in fact not the Rat King. Thomas was now undead. When Thomas didn't come home that night, Carl began to get worried and decided to go out and look for him. When he finally found him, he spoke to him. Thomas, are you okay? You don't look so well. Thomas turned around and said one thing that will haunt Carl forever. Rar. So Thomas did what any smart man would have done. He blasted Thomas to smithereens. It was a tragic day for Carl, having to blow up his own friend like that. How could he sleep tonight after what he'd done? On the bright side though, he got that alien blaster a long time ago, and he couldn't help but feel like it was kinda nice to finally get to use it. But what an absolute tragedy, having to blow up your friend like that. Anyway, life continued. Carl began to grow older, and though he had never forgotten about Thomas, he had pretty much forgotten about the legend of the Rat King. He just accepted that it's just a silly story Thomas used to tell, and it was time to move on. But then something happened. Something no one expected, not even Carl. A great large rat arrived at their village the following morning. Came as an absolute surprise to the locals, as you can imagine. The rat seemed to at least be friendly, so no one thought much of it. A few people thought, he looks pretty tasty. I could eat some of that. But Carl thought something else entirely. He thought, could this be it? The Rat King? The one who will save us from the wasteland? What better way to find out than to just ask? Carl explained the situation to the Rat King, saying that his friend was recently killed trying to find him, and that his little village desperately needed help. So many of them were sick, hungry, and so many had already died. He had heard the tales that the Rat King held the key to surviving the apocalypse and rebuilding society back to the glory it once held. The Rat King sat silently, listening to his every word intently, nodding his head occasionally. And when Carl had finished speaking, the Rat King paused, pondered what he had been told just for a moment, and opened his mouth to speak. He said something that filled Carl not with hope, but with fear. Rar. Carl realized how stupid he had been for talking to a rat for the last hour and a half and decided to go back and do his job. The Rat King laughed and thought to himself, what an idiot, he doesn't know I can actually speak English, and decided to go pull a prank on him by healing the town and raising his friend Thomas from the dead. The Rat King cast his spell of healing and prosperity all around him. Unfortunately, it had been a long time since he had used this spell and he was very much out of practice. And he went a little bit overboard, possibly raised too many people from the dead, and healed people so much that they actually died in the process. This, of course, was very bad news for everyone, especially Carl, who got rid of his alien blaster for some reason and opted to use a spear, which caused him to get killed by a zombie. The village was overwhelmed. Skeleton and zombie fought alongside each other. The already weakened society had now been weakened that much more. And the few who survived the zombie uprising only lived to see the day that they would join them. Carl and Thomas really messed this one up. That's why you don't talk to strangers, man. Eventually, no human remained in the village. They had all been turned to zombies. The nearby villages were very curious as to why they hadn't heard from their neighbors in a long time and began to go check it out. Unfortunately, the same thing happened to them. More zombies spreading through the wasteland, lighting themselves and others on fire. And unfortunately, the 4-year-olds were really having a hard time of defending the town. Really a lot of responsibility put on a 4-year-old. Poor guy. You'd think that the villages far away would have been okay, but there really was nowhere you could go. Every village was on the same continent as the zombies, and it was only a matter of time until they had all been taken over. However, in the last standing village there stood a man named Bob, who fortunately was immune to the zombie virus, and it would be him who stands between humanity and extinction. For the second time in the last 50 years, he fought against the zombies, trying to fend off the invasion and hopefully save his village. And honestly, he was doing a pretty good job until someone threw a torch and exploded him. On the bright side though, he didn't turn into a zombie, he was just killed by one of his friends. The last village began to fall, as all the ones before it had done the same. All the people conforming to everyone else's style, losing their uniqueness, and turning green. However, during this time, another village existed on the far edges of Spain. A small little village, not realizing that just across the fields were hundreds of brain-eating zombies that would maybe someday find them. They didn't know that. They didn't want to know that. They just wanted to farm. The problem is, the zombies would eventually find them. The humans continued to grow and would need to expand further into the surrounding lands, putting them closer and closer to the zombie horde. It was inevitable. We knew the day was coming. In fact, the day might actually be today. But there was something that no one noticed, because they didn't know to notice it. On an island just over the shore lived a creature. To the average person, it's just a rat, roaming around what's left of Britain. But something that only you and I would believe is that this rat was the son of the Rat King. He didn't quite know it yet, but he was capable of saving these people from the impending doom that they faced. All we can do is hope that they find each other before it's too late.